when I either have QRadar on AWS or I'm monitoring instances, machines, stuff that is in AWS from QRadar, regardless of whether QRadar runs there or on-prem or another cloud, do I lose visibility into the wonderful flows? And you don't. What I'm showing you in here is actually a QRadar instance that our friend Max Lewis created for this video, and we can actually see that this data is present there. I'm actually covering the source IP and destination IP to protect any of the IPs that we are launching this from. But you actually see that we get the source and destination port, and from that QRadar can infer what type of traffic this is, and we have how much data is actually going in and out, and so we can detect abnormal things, and we see the protocol. You can actually see the fields. Let's actually click into one of these flows to see a little bit more details about those. Then here you see is the same stuff that you get when you get QRadar on-prem. I'm covering the account ID. I don't think that you can do much without the access key and the secret for it, but just in case. So I'm not going to scroll down and show you the rest, but you get the picture. Now, what is it that you need to do to get these VPC flow logs? By the way, are translated into IPFix, and that's how they get into QRadar. What do you need to do in the AWS console to set this up, and also what you need to do in QRadar's admin to get the parser to be able to retrieve this. Let's actually go into the AWS console to show that. Actually, let's draw this in the whiteboard to make sure that we understand the steps and we don't get lost into the GUIs of the products. So the objective, as you probably guess, is to put those VPC flow logs into an S3 bucket, right? In Max's case, the bucket that he created, he called it Max test dash flows, right? You'll see that name popping up later. But that is not all we need to do, because we need to provide a way for QRadar to know when there is new data for it to retrieve and what's the name of the bucket. And to do that, as we did in the case of the web application firewall video, you need to create an SQS instance, a simple Q service instance, and then you'll tell that the VPC flow will go there, and the notification from that is going to tell QRadar when there is data and when to get it and where to get it. And for that, from the SQS, the important piece is, as usual, is to get a URL. That's all the information that QRadar needs to go and retrieve that. But QRadar will also need the access key, and you get this from your AWS administrator, and of course the secret to have the right to go there and retrieve that data. Let's actually go first into AWS console and see these things, how Max set those up. So if we type VPC here, we actually get to this screen from which you can see the VPCs that was actually created. There's only one in here, and this is the one. I'm trying to cover the account ID. Again, I don't think that without the secret you can do much to it, but just in case. And then you will click in here and you will create new one, right? Because this has already been created. And if part of the information that you will put is actually in here, it will be specific in your case, will be different. But one of the things that you need to specify is what is the actual bucket. So I'm going to click here on flow logs to see that bucket that this data will go to. And we can actually see that one there. So we said that there is an SQS that we actually need to create. So you type SQS here, and this is the one that we did on the WAF video, and this is the one that he did for the VPC Flow logs. Let's actually click in it. Now, this is already being created and covering the account ID here, but when you create yours, you will need to specify in a YAML file that I'll show you in a minute when I will click here, edit, the name of the actual queue that this is associated with. In your case, you will do something similar to this, and that's the name of the actual bucket. So now we have the SQS service, we have the S3 bucket, we have everything we need. Let's actually go into QRadar's admin console to specify the DSM for it. In the QRadar console, and again, this is the same whether this is on-prem or on the same cloud. You go to the log source management, and the log source that Max created here is precisely this one, VPC Flow logs. Let's actually click in it to see the definitions in there. This is actually easier to be seen. If we click here the edit button, it will be closer to what you will have to put when you are doing this. So the piece that might not be intuitive for you to derive is that the log source type is the universal DSM. The protocol is the REST API, because that's where we are retrieving that. Let's actually click here in the protocol, because there's pieces that you need to be specify well for this to work. So the pieces, of course, is the access key and the secret key. And the important part is that as in the case of the WAF case, there are two methods. The prefix one is very limited because it's not multi-region. So this is with the SQS is far more flexible. So you specify SQLs and you put here that URL that we saw in the AWS console configuration. And the other important part in here is that the event format has to be AWS VPC Flow logs. So you, from the pull down, you select this option. The piece is that you need to specify the host that you are retrieving this, and because this is inside the same instance of AWS and it's an all-in-one, all I need to do is to put the local host, and that's all you need to have to do to get visibility and rules that will fire on NetFlows, in spite of the fact that your resources are in AWS.